Okay, so this is a performance of A Night by the Fire. Okay. 5 people are sitting by the fire. Every one of them is from a different part of the world. Each of them will tell a story about their strange lives that may or may not be true. The stories will be told using only past tense. In the end, they will reveal why they are here. The story is set in a medieval fantasy world full of various strange creatures, inspired by worldly myths and folklore. The story follows 5 unusual warriors sitting by the fire, telling tales of their lives.
All right, then I will begin with our story. Uh, I hope that you all can hear me well. 4 people are sitting around a bonfire. As the night moves on, each of them tells the story of who they are and how they ended up there. An old warrior with white flowing beard started talking. I will not tell you of the events that molded me into the man I am today. I once lived in a small village, deep in the great taiga of the north. Born and bred a warrior, I knew nothing but the shimmer of steel and the thunder of warfare. For years I fought and conquered together with my tribe. I buried many friends, cousins, and brothers in arms, with many more enemies. I never doubted my way of life. Honor and valor were the ultimate goals, and with every victory I felt more and more powerful. Every drop of blood that I lost, and every warrior that shed his own lifeblood on my blade, I considered a sacrifice, an offer to the mighty gods above, who watched my every step and who blessed all my battles. As our army grew more powerful, we encountered mightier foes, each regiment of warriors more fearsome than the previous. They forged their blades in the depths of the earth and rode into battle on the backs of mighty griffins. They called forth storms and demons, even reviving their fallen warriors to serve them on the battlefield once more. They all were powerful, but in the end, every last one of them would bend the knee before our banners, and all would shiver when facing the might of the icy north. After many years of surrounding myself with bloodshed, I started to yearn for something more, something better. It takes a strong man to start a battle, but it takes a grand one to know when it has to stop. As I watched soldiers who I knew nothing about drench the dirt beneath my boots with their young crimson blood, I realized that battle doesn't bring me joy anymore. After my final victory, I got my blessings from the chieftain and left our conquering horde so that I could return home and start a new life, far from the blood and destruction of the battlefield. It didn't take me long. I found a good wife, became father of 2 boys, and used the gold that I earned in the army to buy some land and start a farm. I hung my sword and shield above our hearth, and as the years went by, I almost forgot about it. Until one night, when all of that changed. I awoke to the sound of screams coming from outside and the smell of smoke surrounding me. We were under attack. Before I could say anything, my eldest son ran out to face the enemy. In a panic, I escorted my wife and our second son, an infant, down to the docks, where the women and children of our tribe would be boarded onto our ships so that they could be sent away from the village. As I came back to our house, I saw an enormous army marching towards our home. Our main gate was destroyed, cleft in twain by some sort of humongous weapon, and the enemy soldiers started pouring in. They stood there before the flames that had engulfed everything that I held dear. I saw my son, my beautiful son, being impaled through the heart with a spear. I watched his killer laugh and sneer as he let his lifeless body hit the ground. I grabbed my sword and shield, and suddenly It was almost like I had been transported back through time. I was once again the man I was 17 years prior. I approached the invading army alone. Their soldiers started charging at me with weapons drawn, but it was futile. They were fragile, weak, and simply no match. One after the other, they fell to my blade, their blood reflecting the silver moonlight. I felt like a warrior again. I must have slain hundreds before I stood in front of their leader, a towering man in black armor. As I swung my sword at him and sliced cleanly through his arm, fueled by rage, I lifted my sword again, but I was struck down by a mass of magical force. I awoke the next morning, wounded and covered in ashes. With nothing but revenge in my mind, I swore an oath on my father's grave, prayed for the safety of my wife and son, and set out. Since that day, the only things going through my mind are thoughts of revenge. I yearn power. I want to be mighty enough to avenge my son and destroy his killers. I have killed thousands on my quest, some of them innocent, but I do not care. And I will kill many more if needed until I have satisfied my hunger for revenge and power. I am Ilgar the Unbroken, son of Skal from the tribe of Jotun. Now you know my story and my creed, and I did not know how to continue my quest until this strange woman sitting here with our group offered a solution. That would be my part.
It's my turn now. So, one night I could not sleep, so I decided to take a walk. Somewhere in the distance, I heard silent screams, and I decided to check what that was about. The screams sounded like they were coming from the church, so I ran there as fast as I could. I saw the town's most beloved priest, Father Jeremy, ruthlessly killing 3 orphans who had been begging in front of the church every day. I could not believe my eyes. I was so shocked. I could not move my legs. It was haunting me. I decided to speak about it. But everyone would say, Father Jeremy would never do that. You must be crazy. I knew I must do something. I could not let the killer wander around and maybe even kill more innocent people. I made a plan and I went to my old friend Arthur. He was a very skilled wizard, but not many people knew that. Only his close friends like I was. I told him what I saw, and my old friend was the only person that believed in my story. After telling him my plan, I asked him for him to fake my death. He tried to convince me not to risk my life, but after a long discussion, he took a dusty book from a shelf, and a few minutes later he made me appear dead. At my funeral, before the coffin was put under the ground, Arthur threw his spells and I was not dead anymore. I went out of the coffin. I killed Father Jeremy. I sliced his throat and I pushed him in the coffin that was intended to be mine. I grabbed my horse, started prepared for my escape. Other people were shocked. It took them a few moments to realize what happened, but it was too late. They could not catch me. I was already far away from my town. Before I fled, I saw my wife crying and calling me to come back, but I knew it was not safe to come back and bring her with me. I did not tell her my plan, because I knew she would reveal it to one of her friends, and my plan would be in danger. My name is Baldur Frost. I came from a town you have probably never heard of, Bone Town. I came here to find a way to bring my wife back, and I hope you will help me, because if you do, I will help you too. That's my part.
Okay, I'm the next one. This is the story that changed my life. In order to tell it properly, I will have to go many moons back. I was once an important man. Many admired me, all respected me, few hated me. My name, alongside the name of the mighty King Brian, son of a fallen King Ronan, echoed in every house in Cumbria. We were once deemed an infallible duo. I was the brain, the strategist behind our every move, and King Brian had the power. His words were the law. King Brian, later proclaimed the cruel king, ascended the throne during the most tragic and apocalyptic years Cumbria has faced. He ruled pragmatically, many would say viciously, prompt to sacrifice men for a higher cause. Cumbria, situated in the middle of the fertile valley intersected by many rivers, has been targeted by many barbarous enemies who relentlessly raided and destroyed the city. During the period of Brian's ascension, Cumbria's most persistent and resilient enemy have been Strigas, bony creature with folded spine and gigantic triangular teeth. Diabolical cannibals, able to act on their own, Strigas would continuously attack and kidnap women and children from the narrow streets of the city. This was the era most referred to as the Infernal Age. People were dismayed, hopeless, and in a state of perpetual shock and horror. Men were deserting the army, ready to flee the city with their families. Stubborn and temperamental, Brian's emotion had no moderation, which is why, fueled by his love for the country and hatred towards the enemy, he ordered men to take arms and defend their country. Brian's presence was overwhelming, but he was a natural leader, always fighting in the first row alongside his knights. His conviction and hatred directed at Striga rapidly spread among the people and motivated all to stand in a battle that seemed hopeless. We lost many brave souls that night, but the city was saved. The initial feeling of satisfaction upon winning quickly faded and gloominess prevailed. Many lost their homes, and streets of the once beautiful city were crowded with injured and undernourished folk. Brian's crude approach didn't seem to have stimulating effect on people anymore. On the other hand, I was always a people's person, a commoner born and raised in the family of 10 brothers and sisters, out of whom only my younger brother and I survived the flu. I joined King Ronan's army when I turned 14. Due to my small size, I was mostly overlooked, which allowed me to observe and perceive people. I quickly became accustomed with phoniness of the noblemen and their ambiguous smiles and convoluted speakings. Moreover, I had to find ways to compensate for my size in order not to be replaced or killed by the enemy, so I worked painstakingly on my agility and reflexes, combined with demanding sword-wielding trainings. Years have passed in the army, and I have earned my place as the commander of a company. King Brian approached me after our first win against Strigas, offering me a position as his advisor and spokesperson when dealing with city folk. My position also required reporting the mood, inclination, and needs of the commoners. Soon enough, we appeared to be a good match for managing our country's affairs. King's decisiveness and sturdiness, combined with my perceptiveness for a while, were unprecedented. We were aware of fear of Striga's return growing among the people, which is why I suggested making alliances with our previous foes, as we were both endangered by the greater menace which attacked us all. Not long after, an army of our former enemies flooded the city, but this time defending it. And when the Strigas attacked again, we managed to send them off. Thus, we gained enough time to start building massive stone walls around our damaged city to protect it. I quickly rose to the greatly esteemed position of a king's right-hand man and entrusted with the position of a commander of an elite unit, King's Guard. Everyone in the royal family accepted me, though I was not a nobleman. Now that we bestowed the city with the air of peace and prosperity, internal policy has become a matter of utmost priority. King Brian's search of a wife has been a long time a topic of public interest. Many respected ladies from far countries have visited the courts of the cruel king, but none of them managed to capture his attention. He was vainglorious and deemed everyone but me inferior to him. While he was wallowing in self-pity over his unsatisfactory marital status, I encountered a fair lady named Kiva, and was immediately drawn to her piercing green eyes. Her gaze was intense and her posture regal. At first glance, she seemed untouchable, but her beaming smile, radiating goodness, was disarming and beckoning. Assured that the alliance I forged with the Strigas was faultless and strong, I was ready to step back and settle down with Kiva. King's vanity has over the years transformed into selfishness and obsessive egotism, which is why he didn't take lightly me leaving. The mere thought of me leaving his ranks made him feral. He started losing his composure and taking out his anger on the innocent. People started complaining and demanding for me to come back. Suddenly, the king backstabbed me. The king's entourage started spreading rumors around my younger brother, an honest soldier who remained in the king's army diligently and loyally performing his duties. Soon, my dear brother was in the king's dungeons facing execution for treason. I protested. I begged and cried, trying to convince Brian to call off the killing, but all he did was laugh in my face, dismissing my pleading and blaming my brother's fate on me. My brother was executed in front of me, and all I could do was watch. I failed him. I felt something break inside of me, and an overwhelming wave of pure primal anger and desire for revenge came over me. I still knew my way around court and all its secret passages and corridors. The night after the execution, I broke inside the king's chamber and killed him in cold blood, not hesitating even for a moment. Knowing that after that I would become first enemy of the country, I arranged for my wife to be hidden outside the city walls. I couldn't risk her running with me, it was too dangerous. I got my revenge. My wife is safer now, but I'm facing the trial as I become a criminal by killing the king, notwithstanding the reasons I had. My anger still does not leave me, but the sorrow is slowly overwhelming it, and there is no peace in my soul. Then a strange woman of the group offered me a tempting proposal. The end.
Now would be my turn. This was a story that had changed the human world. There was nothing important that I could have possibly forgot back home. Yes, all the important scrolls were inside my cloak, and truth be told, those were the only material items of any importance. I would have rather been dragged around the central grounds of the imperial city, soaked in my own blood while being beaten to death, than being compared to the rest of the citizens of my country at the time. Those lowly creatures had been given such a gift, and yet they chose to abandon it in but a cowardly way. The people of Hayfield had all shared one inborn attribute for centuries, one characteristic that distinguished them from all of the other members of the mankind, an ability to feel the presence of dark magic with the high possibility of being able to control it after the special training. However, dark magicians had, for as long as I could remember, been a forbidden topic in Hayfield and were not to be brought up in any sort of conversation. The reason, of course, had been the hate and animosity that the rest of the mankind had always felt and expressed towards all of the magical users, especially the ones gravitating towards the layer of darkness. The only ones who had the natural potential to rule over the others, the ones quite obviously more powerful, were also the biggest cowards of the human realm. How ironical and pathetic that was. Though all was not lost, for I, Cordelia Concord, had devoted my whole life to strengthening my natural talent, and so I finally became a dark wizard. Yes, I became that atrocious, gruesome being that everyone would have hated if they had only known the truth about. In the eyes of the people of my hometown, I had been a cheerful, silly orphan who had just happened to be smart enough to become a herbalist. Little did I know I will have become one of the greatest black wizards alive. I had finally reached the stage where I could summon the Elder Devil, who, when made a contract with, will have become the most powerful weapon. I had decided to abandon my village and search for suitable contractors who would help me do the deed. I would take the role of the ruler that my whole nation should have taken ages ago. The contract required a vow sealed with blood of multiple people, so the situation I had got myself in at the time in the forest was quite possibly a perfect one. After hearing all of their stories, I had decided to present myself as one who understood their suffering and the one who had experienced something similar in the past. This was my easiest case of manipulation so far. It took little to awake the sympathy of my companions. I told them the story where I happened to be the poor little soul who had been banished for trying to help and cure people with magic. My act was at its finest, I would say, as I even managed to make my voice tremble and even shed some tears. So after I had realized that they were completely drawn in, I proposed an idea. To people who had been betrayed and hurt by their own kind, revenge would sound like quite an alluring idea, or so I had thought. That's when I finally brought up the idea of summoning the Elder Devil, of course, without mentioning the consequences. I told them that we would all work together in order to avenge each one of them, and I insisted on the fact that this creature was a grand necessity when it came to completing that plan. In my amazement, they all agreed quite swiftly without making a fuss, presumably due to the graveness of their situations. Then the process had begun. I had given them a pocket knife, said that only a droplet of blood would do, after which they all behaved accordingly to my orders. I began with casting the spell, feeling as if my whole body was swallowed by fire. I imagined that the rest of them felt the same. After an agonizing experience of but half an hour, a grand gloomy creature appeared in front of us. That had been the one time that I ever felt such fear, but I soon enough realized that I should stand for what I believed in. There was no going back. The creature laughed maliciously at the poor people who were yet to find out what grave sacrifices they had made. All of their beloved people's bones were the fuel that lit up the bonfire before us. After having found out the repulsive truth, the people around me screamed in utmost agony. I had never felt sorry. The time had come when the strong finally burned the weak with their fiery flames of resentment. The end.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, so this was a story, A Night by the Fire. Okay, thank you, thank you. All right, any questions or comments? From our audience? Oh, thank you, Anne. Anne says, wow, that was a great story. Wonderful. All right, excellent. Thank you for preparing and sharing this performance with us today. We have one more performance from our guests here from the University of Belgrade. The next story we have for you, they have prepared, is The Trial of May and Might. Okay, all right, so I'm going to set up the pins. Okay, get ready here. Let's see. All right, and in this story, we have Nina performing, right?
Yes.
Wave your hand. Okay, thank you. Great, excellent. All right, I have one pin here. All right, and then Luca is also going to be performing. Welcome. Great.
Thank you.
Okay, and Yana, you will also be performing again. All right, great. Let me pin you. All right, and we also have Vanya. Can you wave for me and I can find you quickly? Great, thank you. Okay. All right, and we have Anda. All right, here we go. I'll pin you. All right, and we have Qatar as well. We've got a lot of people in here, so I'm trying to find Qatar. Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Okay, hello. All right, excellent. And we have Sophia. Is she here? Oh,
Yeah, I'm here.
Excellent, welcome. All right, I think that's everybody. Okay.
I don't know if you called me out, Angela.
Angela? Oh, I'm sorry, Angela. My confidence was not clear. So I probably did not say your name so clearly. I apologize for that. Okay, but you are pinned, so
Angela. Okay.
All right.
Oh, and also we'll be reading our own summary of the presentation, the performance. So
Wonderful.
that's our introduction. Yeah.
Okay. All right.